Brisbane is a beautiful city with a lot of parks and green areas. Based on previous data analysis, we found that greenery cannot be felt by pedestrians. Look at the top-down view, maybe we can find reason. Most of the modern cities use grid pattern to organize city space. The grid pattern is good for use and grow cities, but also has dead end. The site I choose is New Farm, which is a very typical area with grid pattern. Brisbane has trains across city, but New Farm is not within scope of train or metro system. The main public transport in New Farm is taking bus, driving private cars, and walking. Based on the original street grid, traffic facilities are distributed in different intersections. The use of streets has been restricted to street lines, no matter which buses lines people are choose. Same problem in commercial system. The original street grid restricted people's daily activities to specific areas. Because of the two regular blocks, people's daily walk becomes boring, even if they reach to living facilities. The original street grids divide New Farm into many small blocks. Even if there are 4 parks and river walk, the interaction between people and greenery is still not very high. There are a few types of public buildings in New Farm, including education, entertainment, healthcare, and government public constructions. However, the original street grid leads to a poor connection between public buildings, which is not good for organizing citizens' daily lives. So, what can be changed under this situation? What kind of residential area can be recreated here? I think the streets should be open and welcoming place. Streets should serve people. I think it's a sustainable approach by linking Brisbane's unique scenery and street features with people. Provide more possibilities for the use of streets. Based on the original greenery and public buildings in New Farm, defining 4 main dots, which connects greenery, transportation, and living facilities. Establishing a new street relationship between the 4 new dots so that the street will no longer a single straight line connection. Based on the 4 new dots, generate a new ring in New Farm. Try to add landscapes into these blocks and activate the street life. Then, generate 3 street typologies based on the local environment covered by the new ring. The first typology is greenery blocked by obstacles. Second typology is greenery not well utilized. And third typology is greenery hidden in the courtyard. For typology 1, the greenery can be seen on the street, but it is blocked by barriers such as fences. Pedestrians on the street cannot feel the greenery when they're walking. A second typology has 2 examples. One is beside park, where the greenery is sufficient, but the interaction with people is low, even blocking people's activity roads. Another example is the greenery alongside the river also has low interaction with people, which wasted the planets alongside the river and not full use of the river view. For typology 3, the greenery is hidden in the private courtyard. Pedestrians can hardly feel the greenery on the street. Focusing on these 3 typologies, studying strategies that have 3 different intensities of influence on the original street. For typology 1, using the existing greenery along the street, remove some obstacles and move a small part of the houses, adding landscape to enhance the diversity of street activities. For typology 2, firstly, reorganize green plants based on the original greenery in the park and combine them with the landscape to improve streets use and vitality. Secondly, using the existing conditions of Riverview, change the status that riverbank greenery is not fully utilized. Join to the landscapes program, activate riverside life. For typology 3, try to make interaction with blocks and streets, moving a small part of the houses, transfer the private courtyard to public use, whose owners willing to, and add landscape programs so that people walking in the new lane can interact with the residents when they pass this part of the block. Activate the street life in residential and reduce the boringness of streets. Then adding 7 types of landscape programs corresponding to different street types and adapted to different types of street activities. For typology 1, adding exhibition areas which can host by public organizations or landowner themselves to change people's walking feeling, and resting areas can be provided a place for chatting. For typology 2, the one alongside the river, adding a colorful sidewalk to attract people and build observation decks to use the good eyesight alongside the Brisbane River. For typology 3, adding second-hand stores which allow landowners to sell or exchange their goods to the pedestrians, and adding outdoor playgrounds for children so that they can play with friends, not only in their own blocks. Moreover, the plant boxes as a new landscape can bring different way of planting, hope that can give the residents some inspiration. This typology also has resting areas. In the third typology, which is reorganize the community blocks, people can have a vibrant street life.
My goal is to enhance Brisbane pedestrians' perception of green through reshaping urban public space. By boldly designing the parking system in the future, reclaiming the present ground parking space, improving the pedestrian conditions, optimizing the spatial organization, and promoting the interaction between people and green. Finally, through typology study, guiding the design of specific areas, enriching the green perception, and meeting the diverse needs of the community.
Modern cities. Vast, expanding, busy, larger than life. The modern-day city is a symbol of our time, a symbol of global economic growth. Modern-day cities are a harsh glimpse into life of profit before people. But this is changing. What if cities were designed for people? What if streets were no longer filled with cars but with pedestrians and cyclists? What if our cities had and acted like urban forests? With the global COVID-19 pandemic reaching all parts of the world, we were forced to put our health at the forefront of every decision. Perceptions of life as we knew it are forever changed. People are looking to the future with brighter eyes, seeking inclusive, healthy, supportive, and enlivened urban environments. It's time to pump the heart back into the city. It's time for Lavane. Lavane is a design strategy aimed at closing gender gaps in urban environments for contemporary car-dominant cities. The strategy recognises streets as the storytellers of cities, defining places and connecting people. By reshaping a network of streets to embody a female-friendly environment, Lavane pumps female elements like safety and comfort into the city. Studies across the world tell us that historically, women spend most of their time in the private sphere. The public realm, particularly in cities, typically comprises of spaces heavily designed for and dominated by men. In Brisbane, Australia, women are and were typically constrained to the suburbs. Because of the many complexities surrounding historical gender roles, women's presence, or rather lack thereof, in cities such as Brisbane, is generally overlooked in many design strategies. Perhaps consequently, we then start to see a number of gender gaps prevalent in these environments. Brisbane, in particular, currently possesses one of the world's most severe gender gaps in cycling, with 80% of commuter cyclists in Brisbane being male. When breaking this down, we find a recurring theme behind women's lack of presence in the city. Simply, a city not designed for them is a city not inviting to them. Lavane illustrates how a city can be reshaped to strengthen human connection, build harmony, eliminate inequality, and foster serenity through female-friendly design. Designed to inspire reconnection to our environments, Lavane transforms city streets into female-friendly, semi-public spaces, combining convenience with natural and safe design to reconnect women to the city through a welcoming, vibrant, and engaging streetscape. Lavane embodies a female-friendly network of spaces catering to the needs of women at all stages of life, linked through a Feedster-inspired cycle route, reshaping cities to embody a true sense of belonging for all. Lavane reconnects women to the city through a culturally vibrant network that enriches the user experience of a city's unique character and urban fabric. Home is where the heart is. Lavane pumps the heart back into the city.
The notion of car dependency has set challenges for city design since the introduction of the automobile. There are examples such as Barcelona, a well-designed grid-patterned city with people-centric spaces turned into car-centric spaces. And now in the notion of sustainable design, we're turning back into people-centric spaces. As the world's population continues to increase, as does the dependency on cars, along with traffic management and environmental issues. When interstate highway systems were built in 1950s and 60s in America, it was hailed a marvel of transportation technology, connecting city suburbs and stitching the nation together. But it also divided the country, slashing through countless neighborhoods and level communities. It has become clear that cities can build themselves out of congestion with bigger highways, but they can damage themselves considerably. The impacts of arterial roads such as motorways, highways, and freeways can present a barrier to pedestrian access to areas such as public open space and recreation areas. Literature focuses on analyzing urban motorway removal to improve mobility and enhance public life with the means of upgraded public spaces, as well as argue that decreasing car infrastructure is essential for sustainable cities. The problem of the motorway hits close to home, such as the suburb of Woolloongabba in Brisbane. A suburb that already lacks of perceived greenery is disconnected due to huge motorway. Woolloongabba, a relatively grid-patterned suburb, is disconnected by this motorway. How do we reconnect a disconnected suburb? How can we intervene? How can we create community spaces that everyone can access while reconnecting the suburb? So let us intervene into this problem. Let us make community destinations, green public spaces, and urban space activation. Our project has 3 typologies: overpasses, alongsides, and underpasses. We look at pedestrian flows, urban space, greenery, and barriers. So let's look at overpasses first. This is the space that is above motorways, typically bridges or pedestrian bridges. Let's combine all of these elements together, creating a space for pedestrians and cyclists to meet, use, and enjoy. Let's have a look at the spaces that are alongside motorways. Typically, these are spaces that are nestled in between the sound barriers of the motorway and neighborhoods. Let's expand these already green spaces with natural vegetation by creating urban spaces for people to meet and greet. Let's talk about underpasses. This is typically the space that is under a motorway. This space is usually typically a larger space that can be used for many uses. By combining these elements, we can use this space for community. We can create open spaces and public spaces where people can meet, a community destination. Let's get back to Woolloongabba. Let's check out how we can intervene. Let's see how we can take the strategies and implement them into the typologies that we find within the suburb. Ideally, the most beneficial area of sight for these interventions is located in the middle of the suburb. This junction has all 3 of the typologies. Overall, our design strategy is to reconnect Woolloongabba by bringing each side of the suburb to a central location. Residents are able to enjoy green spaces while being connected to renewed crossings and able to enjoy public space, which can consist of parks, recreational and performance areas.
The project is to develop a specific neighborhood-scale design proposal for a community in Brisbane, with the aim of creating vibrant street life and community life, and improving the street's environmental quality and facilities will better promote community life. Therefore, in the design, by analyzing the selected site in terms of traffic, people flow, greenery, and function, the streets in the selected area were classified and develop a corresponding design strategy. These strategies will improve the street environment and allow people to better integrate into the community life and enhance their comfort level. A previous group study analyzed the neighborhood street life in terms of housing prices and found that the type of housing in the lower-priced areas of West End was apartment buildings. It was also found that people who live in this area do not move around it often because of lacking greenery and poor planning. Therefore, there is a great potential for these neighborhoods to become more vibrant. And improving the street's environmental quality and facilities will better promote community life. The key to the vitality of a street is to have its own social life. 6 aspects: access, aesthetic, ecology, enclosure, richness, and scale are used to measure the quality of the streets and then discover which streets have potential. In the end, it was decided that the site was in West End. The roads in the West End are a little narrower than the roads in other districts, and most of them are 2 lanes. The speed limit on these roads is also restricted, with the speed limit on the main roads at 80 km per hour and the speed limit on the secondary roads at 50 km per hour. The speed of the cars is not very fast, and it is safer for people. In terms of the flow of people, it seems that it is a main road or road junction, and the flow of people is relatively large. The image illustrates the location of the trees on the streets in West End, but in real life, there are not so many trees lining the streets. By analyzing the functional layout of the site, the area has the following functions: commercial, residential, office, educational, and recreational areas, and it is found that the area is mainly residential, mostly apartment buildings. Next is the commercial area, where there are 2 large supermarkets and some stores along the streets. However, the existing problem is that these street-level stores do not have much potential for development, and these supermarkets have some disadvantages. They tend to cause traffic congestion and do not promote community life, which also hinders the development of street-level stores. Therefore, it is important to deal with the relationship between supermarkets, stores along the street, and the residents. Coordinating the centralized and standardized commerce of supermarkets with a vibrant street-level commerce in the community to form a complementary relationship will not only activate the street-level commerce and promote the commercial development of supermarkets, but also benefit people's lives. The streets of this neighborhood are classified into 3 categories according to the different characteristics of the site. The first type is a no type. This type of street is a secondary road, relatively narrow and surrounded by apartment buildings. Transform it into a pedestrian street and set up landscape facilities with the purpose of getting people out of the apartment buildings. The second type is a connection type. The purpose of it is to connect apartment buildings, stores along the street, and supermarkets, so that people can be led to the stores when they walk to the supermarket. The last type is the interface type. It aims to open the interface of the supermarket and attract the flow of people. The nodal streets are transformed into pedestrian streets within the community, providing green trails where people can live healthy lives. The connecting streets retain the carriageway and lead directly to the parking lot of the apartment building or supermarket, while the pedestrian paths connect the apartment buildings, stores, and supermarkets. The interface street mainly attracts people flow from the main road. In terms of landscape design, greenery is added to improve the street environment, and the recreational space, open space, and commercial space are provided to meet different functional requirements. As for paving, the absorbent paving is the main one. Because this type of paving is very environmentally friendly, it can maintain the balance of urban soil ecology and promote the sustainable urban development. The renovated streets are more dynamic and not only harmonize the relationship between the functions, but also people are better integrated into the community life.
Approximately 39% of Queenslanders are not getting enough physical activity in their day-to-day lives. This can lead to heart diseases and diabetes due to the sedentary lifestyles that we all lead in the modern day-to-day life. Cycling can prevent that and is great for individuals, communities, as well as the environment. Based on the previous data analysis on gender equality and transport safety, we identified potential issues of road safety for cyclists in selected areas of Brisbane. This concluded that several main streets were not safe for pedestrians or cyclists, particularly on major connecting roads, and the majority of collisions were occurring during peak hour traffic. Additionally, streets are perceived quite differently by females. After analysing the overall safety of Brisbane's suburbs, the focus area was researched further by the following key considerations: best practice principles of cycling infrastructure design, top contributing factors that can increase diversity in cycling, economic value of providing cycling infrastructure, as well as environmental impacts of prioritising cycling. Based on the research completed, designing with cycling in mind has a highly positive impact on all aspects of environmental, social, and economic outcomes. However, this is also not limited to cycling. It also includes walking, and in turn reducing the use of cars and car dependency, which the same research shows has detrimental impacts on the safety of the environment and society. Therefore, the proposed engagement strategy is to reduce car dependency by having alternative modes of transport as the preferred option for most people, resulting to car usage as the last resort. So what is car centricity, and how can we design to decrease the dependency on cars? Car centricity is a concept where the car is prioritised throughout urban scales, from the planning and design to the access and usage of transport streets and spaces. So when it comes to breaking the car-centric cycle, what we really need to do is encourage all other alternative forms of transport in order to then get people out of their cars. We have to start designing to encourage more human-scaled streets. This includes encouraging more cycling activity, encouraging more pedestrian activity, and encouraging more multimodal transport activity. One of the key factors of this strategy is to really connect people with place. We have chosen New Farm as the testing site. New Farm provides a strong testing ground for a design strategy that prioritises the safety of cyclists and reducing car dependency by providing alternative modes of transport to connect to its neighbouring business areas for commuters, while also enhancing its existing structure of amenities for residents and visitors. Site analysis of the current existing fabric shows that there are quite a few potential opportunities of using the current public transport system. Based on this analysis, an opportunity has been identified in order to connect the existing public transport infrastructure with the amenities, as well as providing cycling infrastructure for everyone to be able to enjoy. We have proposed 2 main cycle routes that are happening on the main roads connecting between New Farm and Fortitude Valley. This allows cyclists who are going on their commute either to the Central Business District in Brisbane City Centre or to the Fortitude Valley train station, as well as Exhibition Station in the future, in order for them to get to where they need to go during the day. This method uses the first and last mile, as well as multimodal transport options, reducing the need to use a car to get to where you need to go. We've also proposed a bus loop between New Farm, Cultural Precinct, the Powerhouse, as well as the Exhibition Station and King Street Precinct. This allows people who may not cycle to catch the bus to get to the Fortitude Valley Station and the Exhibition Station, as well as people who may be already working in the King Street precincts and neighbouring precincts. The third strategy are the mixed-use secondary roads, where cars are rerouted to these roads away from the main road, which will be purely cyclist, pedestrian and public transport centric. The following street typologies have also been identified: primary road commercial, primary road secondary, residential, secondary road mixed, and tertiary road shared. The primary road commercial consists of existing food and retail. These amenities will stay and take advantage of the proposed bike lanes and bus-only lanes alongside the pedestrian programs. Pedestrian programs include taking back existing car parks and turning them into makeshift food markets, residential courtyard spaces, as well as outdoor dining areas throughout the main road. There will also be shared streets at the intersections, limiting all vehicles that may be coming through the secondary road, as well as the primary road buses, to limit their speed to 10 kilometers per hour. The remaining of the street will be limited to 30 kilometers per hour to ensure the safety of pedestrians and cyclists. The primary road residential consists of existing residential areas as well as existing corner amenities. The transport strategy will follow similar to the primary road commercial. However, there will be different programs for the pedestrians and cyclists and users of the space. This includes more programs dedicated to the neighbours, as well as passing by visitors. There is an existing school in this current selected neighbourhood location. Therefore, we propose having pop-up exhibits, a dedicated play area, as well as a pop-up makeshift classroom. The secondary road mixed area has existing food and retail with residential areas alongside. Secondary roads will allow cars to pass at 30 kilometers per hour maximum speed and will have bike lanes on both sides of the road, separated. Programs will be for local residents as well as New Farm residents. This can include activities such as potluck dinners with your neighbours, makeshift old garage turning into an outdoor sheltered movie theatre, as well as EV charging stations for e-bikes as well as electric vehicles. These stations will encourage the use of sharing economies within the neighbourhood, where cars will no longer be owned by individuals but shared with your neighbours. Tertiary road shared areas. These roads will be designed specifically as shared streets where there will be no separation of cars other vehicles, pedestrians, or cyclists. These are to have a maximum speed limit of 10 kilometers per hour to ensure safety of all people. Programs will include garage pop-ups, mainly for the people who are living directly on the street, as well as sharing with the direct neighbours in the area. This can include startup offices, garage band concerts, and maker spaces. Based on these selected street typologies, this gives a broad overview on what a shared street, mixed street, as well as commercial and residential street can look like in other suburbs throughout Brisbane that prioritise pedestrians and cyclists and discourages car centricity.
As the pandemic of COVID-19 stretches across the world, the modes of transport have shifted from public transport to more personal modes. Within Queensland alone, a recent survey by the Transurban reveals that there was a 36% increase in bike usage, with the expected increase of 71% in the future. Despite the positive uptake of cyclists, Brisbane infrastructure has yet to adjust safety measures to cater towards new cyclists. Despite the benefits, there is an ongoing imbalance between the number of male and female riders. A survey from the Heart Foundation shows that there is only 30% of cyclists that have ridden a bike in the past 6 months. From the population, it was found that only a small fraction would ride for commuting purposes. From the same study, it was seen that there are several barriers that are preventing females from cycling. These include feeling unsafe at night, traffic conditions, and sharing the road with cars. Thus, our research initially investigated if it was possible to increase the number of riders if these barriers were addressed. Can righting this imbalance in the gender gap result in reaching our goals of sustainability, health, and community? In our preliminary research, it was discovered that many of Brisbane's arterial roads were rated as dangerous, using the scoring matrix and the study of road composition against several factors relating to one's safety. These factors included speed limit, car volume, traffic level, accident report, bikeway quality, number of street lamps, aesthetic, and enclosure. These scores were based on a weighting system where certain variables received more points depending on the importance of each variable, thus providing each street a score that can be used to illustrate the relative safety. From this, only the dedicated bikeways are highlighted to be safe, whilst main roads for commute resulted in poor score due to the lack of separation from the road and the high number of accidents. Hi, as a resident of Brisbane, I find myself riding around to get to work, but in many cases I would be sharing the road with motorists. And sad to say, that is a terrifying experience for both me and the driver. There are many roads around Brisbane that supposedly have lanes for bikes, or claim to share the road with bikes. But the truth remains that there is a little separation between cyclists and the motorists. Thus, the goal is to design roads that are safe for pedestrians, cyclists, and motorists, eliminating the risk of accidents by improving the road design to account for the hierarchy of movement. The design aims to promote a safer road environment, thus encouraging the usage of light modes of travel, such as cycling and e-scooters. Isolating the scope of problems to a single street will allow us to experiment and test ideas before constructing a strategy for other streets. Now, let's take a closer look at our selected site, Vulture Street. Vulture Street is one of South Brisbane's main streets, known for bringing together many different cultures and varieties of eateries, whilst being a key commercial access for inner southern suburbs connecting West End to East Brisbane. Despite being a busier road than most, the number of accidents along the length of Vulture Street marks it as one of the most dangerous streets in Brisbane to cycle on, especially at many of the intersections. The issue stems from the fact that Vulture Street Hub is a destination for locals to gather at, whilst being a main road bisecting many of the southern suburbs, thus posing an increased risk of arriving at Vulture Street.
This trend is also noticeable in other suburbs, where many of the local stores and amenities gather. This area appears to be the local commercial area, providing essential services to locals and attracting others to the area, and improving the economy. We can describe this area as the commercial district. Reanalyzing our data with these districts in mind, there is indeed a correlation between the number of accidents and these destinations. For the purpose of the study, 3 areas were selected that match the characteristics of the local commercial district. These include Vulture Street in West End, Given Terrace in Paddington, and Brunswick Street in New Farm. For demonstration, West End will be the candidate for the case study. The commercial district of West End lies on the intersection between Vulture Street and Boundary Street. By breaking down and sorting the variety of spaces, an assortment of typologies can be seen. These include cafe or bar, boutiques, services, detached housing, apartments, and parks. Alongside these spaces, 3 transportation typologies are found entwined within the streetscape, including bike racks, bus stops, and pedestrian crossings. Moving on to our strategies, the existing conditions force these cyclists to choose between endangering themselves and riding along the road with motor vehicles as the law intended, or put pedestrians at risk by riding along the footpath. The key goal in the strategy is to reduce areas of conflict between all users whilst improving the overall destination of the commercial district. An overview of the proposed strategy plan includes introducing new bike lanes and replacing car parking, adding infrastructure for more bike parking and dismounting stations and integrated bus stops, a raised scramble crossing which shifts the hierarchy of circulation back to the pedestrians and cyclists, green spaces filling in parking lots, extruding the facade faces to interact with passing pedestrians. These changes requiring accommodations for motor vehicles, such as loading zones, drop-off zones, and pickup zones. Phasing will start with 2 phases, and future phases will evolve based on the response from the community and the technological advancements made since the deployment of the strategy. Phase 1 will look at installing temporary new bike paths in place of parking lots within the commercial district. In addition to lanes, bike boxes and scramble crossings can be implemented, as these do not require any hard infrastructure to be built and can simply be painted and signed. After the testing period, implementing the second phase can begin after seeing the general reaction to the public to the first phase. The feedback can then be taken into account and be tested further or addressed in the second phase. The proposed strategies of the typologies can begin to take shape over the next few years. Phase 3 and other future phases thereafter see that the other areas, such as the previously mentioned Paddington and New Farm, follow the strategies suggested and improve on the success of this streetscape. The scope of these strategies end after approximately 5 to 10 years from now, where what is cutting-edge technology and social developments today can easily be implemented into the streetscapes of the future. This includes the ability to fully pedestrianize the streets and eliminate the need for motor vehicles entirely, while solely relying on public transport such as the future Brisbane Metro. Another alternative includes the use of autonomous vehicles using the roads in a safe manner for both pedestrians and cyclists. A key factor of the strategy includes the use of pedestrian crossings. This paving schematic demonstrates some of the key elements that make up this piece of infrastructure, which allows for both pedestrians and cyclists to safely cross at an intersection. These include rumble strips to keep cars away from bike lanes, a raised intersection slowing down cars and showing clear street hierarchy, and ramped bus stops and drop-off zones to allow buses and cars to climb onto the bus stops. To address one of the main barriers of riding, a scheme for lighting is also proposed to work in conjunction with the street infrastructure. 4 types of lights are to be deployed. A column light, providing a soft glow in a wide area along pedestrian paths. An overhead street lamp designed with residential homes in mind and reducing the amount of light shone into their homes. A post light acting as a barrier between the motorists and cyclists while illuminating bike path without blinding the rider. And finally, a wall lamp providing consistent lighting for storefronts. With these strategies at hand, we can now apply these to our case study of West End, at the intersection between Vulture Street and Boundary Street. Observing the street throughout the day, West End has many lanes that lead to the back of commercial spaces and are typically used for parking and deliveries. A recent development has also changed the intersection at Boundary Street into a scramble crossing, It is yet optimized with markings for cars and pedestrians alike, but has already proven to improve wait times at traffic lights. An example of what could be done at the intersection of Walter Street and Boundary Street is shown here. Bike lanes replace the existing car parks, whilst exceptions were made for loading bays and bus zones. The space between two commercial shops was converted into a green space used for markets and entertainment. At the intersection itself, clear markings have been provided for pedestrians and rumble strips have been added to guide cars along the intersection. To conclude this research, the strategies are then tested again against the safety matrix that was conducted in the earlier analysis. This provides an insight on how much has the strategies improved on the chosen site. As seen below, Walter Street proposed now ranks as the third highest score behind the two Riverside cycle routes, which do not have to worry about motor vehicles at all. By reaching phase 2 of the strategy, neighbouring commercial districts can take to the strategy and evolve the concept further to match the required needs of each site. The more neighbouring sites take to adapting these strategies, the more safe that future cyclists can be at ease when riding along the Brisbane streets. Thank you for listening.
This proposal will address the missing links and infrastructure in the main cycle and pedestrian route within the inner city suburbs of South Brisbane and West End. By attracting and retaining visitors to the area for longer durations, private and public ventures will benefit through increased exposure and revenue. By improving access and linkages between public transport, walking and cycling paths, and providing additional provisions of bicycle and scooter share facilities, car traffic will be reduced in the area. This will in turn improve the lifestyles of the South Brisbane and West End locals. Several typologies along the area of analysis have been selected according to spatial type and area characteristics, including population density, land use, foot and bicycle traffic. These typologies have been further isolated to areas adjacent to the main cycle and pedestrian routes in South Brisbane and placed into 4 distinct categories: green space, mixed use areas, high density residential and low density residential. 2 bands of circulation intersects throughout the route and caters for both short stay and long stay individuals. The areas designated to each area will be treated in several distinct ways. Specific areas in each typology have been selected and a site-specific design implementation will be applied and correspond to the direct needs of the location. Typology 1 is characterised as low residential areas with 1 and 2 storey dwellings. In order to enhance these areas, shaded scooter and bus stops have been added alongside community garden facilities. This will improve access to multimodal transport that promotes healthy and environmentally friendly travel options for the family and workers alike. Community gardens help to connect residents and provide areas of learning for children. Typology 2 applies design strategies to areas of high residential population. Access to shared community facilities including coffee carts, community gardens and markets promote interactions in these communities of high population. Bus, scooter and bicycle stations along these routes in these areas will include shading and hydration stations to promote exercise and an environmentally friendly commute. Typology 3 is designated to areas alongside existing green spaces and aims to provide access to bicycle and pedestrian routes that link residential areas with public amenities, including parks, museums and art galleries. All facilities provided are equipped with hydration and rest areas and shelter from the sun. Interactive facilities such as community fountains and pop-up markets allow residents and visitors to connect and provide safe spaces for local children to play. The final typology focuses on areas of mixed use and aims to provide bicycle, pedestrian, scooter and public transport to facilitate long and short stay individuals. Ease of movement is paramount and mapping is included to provide directions to main attractions. Areas for pop-up market vendors are provided and allow small businesses to populate high traffic areas.
Is greener spaces more beautiful than normal spaces? This may be due to how we perceive the values of trees and greeneries in shaping and providing our life. However, data shows that ecological score does not necessarily correlate with the aesthetic score, especially in the city. This means that more trees does not mean a better city. To be a green city, we have to look at what makes the green spaces work. Quality green spaces are green spaces that humans are able to experience more than just visually. According to WHO, urban green spaces should be close to the people, diverse and respond to multiple demands, designed with simple features, easily maintained, and promotes community participation. A well-designed urban green spaces should be able to impact the health and lifestyle of the people. Brisbane is known for its outdoor lifestyle. Hence, quality green spaces are crucial and vital to provide Brisbane'ites with a comfortable, interactive and pleasing space to enjoy the outdoors. It's worth noting that the Brisbane City Master Plan strategies focuses and relies heavily on the main streets and the major nodes. Less emphasis and even forgotten are the back lanes, sidewalks, alleyways, minor roads and the adjacent streets which connects the city in an invisible network of routes. Therefore, these smaller and compact spaces makes the perfect spot to introduce quality green spaces to complement the Brisbane City Master Plan. Like other major cities, Brisbane are rich with lanes and alleys that runs through the city. These often ignored spaces, when scrutinized more closely, connects the city through an invisible pedestrian network that allows people to explore the city. This network provides the best opportunity to introduce quality green spaces that allows the people moving through the city to experience and interact with the space. By doing so, this will not only introduce more green spaces within the city, it will also highlight and enhance the network as an alternative way to traverse the city. This in turn will complement the Brisbane City Master Plan that already focused and highlighted the main streets of the city to make the city as a whole a greener city. Brisbane City, or the CBD, is very packed and dense. with limited space for a new green space within the city. The amount of people moving within the city area is also very high, making the idea of an alternative pedestrian network very feasible. It is also where there is the most lanes and alleys located within the area. These elements of the city will be the main components of the study where the alternative pedestrian network will pass through. The idea of the alternative pedestrian network within the city begins with two focal points that anchors the design. Albert Street is recognized as the major street connecting the two focal points. Both Edward and George Street are considered to be secondary roads that connects the whole city center. The 8 horizontal streets that connects the main and secondary roads are also considered to be part of the main circulation network within the city. From here, we can identify the lanes and alleyways that travel vertically and passes through the horizontal streets. These lanes are the main components of the alternative pedestrian network. Utilizing vacant lots around the city, these spaces plus the back lanes and alleyways will provide the quality green spaces through an alternative pedestrian network around the city. The existing city blocks is arranged in a grid with clear indications of building blocks and streets. Several back lanes and alleyways are identified as alternative pedestrian routes which when connected creates a comprehensive network within the city. Green spaces are introduced as buffers for the network. This will set a clear boundary for the route and helps with wayfinding around the city. Several vacant lots is then converted into pocket parks and connected with the network through similar design choices. Where applicable, the routes are paved with a different material to further highlight the alleyways and ease the navigation around the network. Commercial opportunities are created through increase of exposure with the increase of pedestrian movements within the alleyways. The corner of the entrance will be specially designed to define the network and attract people to use the alleyways. Entrances to the businesses within the lanes can be further enhanced through the use of different paving materials. This will also create variety and diversity in the lane. For the ease of access and to create a friendlier network, zebra crossings will be introduced with the opposite end to be treated with similar design elements to the alleyways. The possibilities and potential of the alternative pedestrian network is limitless, as there are many ways the network can be utilized and enhanced to further better serve the people of Brisbane. One of the ways is to include a bicycle lane within the network to ensure that cyclists could also enjoy and experience the green spaces provided. Another way the network can also be enhanced is to create multiple levels of the network, as vertical connections can also provide more experience throughout the network. The alternative pedestrian network will not only provide more quality green spaces throughout the city, it will also create a movement network for pedestrians to travel the city and truly experience Brisbane the way it was always supposed to be. By doing so, the network will help Brisbane to reach its full potential to not only be a green city, but also as a friendly and comprehensive city.